Hi, Tim here. I'm a management consultant, I'm a PMP, and I also help people get their PMP applications approved. About half my customers need help fixing a previously rejected application, and the other half just want to save some time and avoid getting their PMP application rejected. I'll show you all the fields on the PMI's online application that can cause problems for you. And I'll also explain why people pay me to use the FastPM Wizard to help them get their application approved. Now, if you're convinced the PMP application is going to be easy for you and you'd never pay for help with it, then just stop watching this video and feel free to watch some other random YouTube videos or take the advice of your PMP instructor. Then if your application gets rejected, come back to FPMcertify.com and I'll be happy to help you out. I won't even tell you that you're, I told you so. So let's go to certification.pmi.org where you can start your PMP application. I've created an account and logged in here. You can click on apply for PMP credential, or I've already saved a draft application, so I'm going to click on continue working on PMP application. First, a bunch of fields on contact information and your highest level of education are all straightforward, so I'm not going to spend time on that. I am going to go into the requirements section because that's where you can enter things that can cause you problems. So let's focus on that. Okay, the PM education field, that's just where you enter in your 35 hours of instructor-led training. It's all straightforward, assuming that you can provide proof of that education if you're audited. Going into the PM experience section, though, this is where problems can arise. So I've entered in some dummy data already here. I'm just going to click on my project. You're going to enter in your project information here. PMI will then try to, they'll spend 5 days to try and assess whether you meet their requirements or not. Everything you enter in the PM experience section can cause problems. For example, you might put in your official project title here, and 5 days later you get an email saying something to the effect of some of your project experience appeared to be operational or administrative in nature, and so then you're rejected. They might have a bunch of other reasons. Often they have a couple reasons in there. You never really know the real reason why they decided that you didn't meet the qualifications, because there's a whole number of things that can trip you up. So that's why I created the FastPM Wizard, to take all what I've learned in looking at people's rejected applications and looking at the audit letters they receive or the rejection letters they receive, and also I've learned what works to get your application approved. So just moving through the application here. Job title, yes, that matters what you put in there. Yes, you have some choices in what you put in there and some strategies. But let's get on to the more complicated parts. Your project contact goes here. The choice of contact you put in does matter. Their email address even matters. You put in surferdude@hotmail.com, and don't be surprised if you have problems. Although you could get lucky, and some applications do fall through the cracks and things sail through, depending on whether PMI looks carefully at your application or not, or how carefully they look at it. So that's the real problem here with following the advice of your PMP bootcamp instructor or other PMPs or stuff you find on the internet with some templates or spreadsheets. Just paste this in here and you'll have no problems. Unless those people have actually seen the number of rejected applications that I have and then helped them out and saw what actually works and what gets you rejected, you won't actually know. So there is a lot of advice out there, and I would take it all with a grain of salt, because most people really don't have experience with rejected PMP applications. Okay, so next we get into putting the number of hours for each of your domain areas or process groups. You can download PMI's PMP handbook and try and follow through that and figure out what you need to put in all of this. It is kind of complicated. I think they are purposely vague in telling you what to put in your application here because they want to be able to review it. And if they just told you exactly what to put in, any old person could just paste in whatever in their application and get it approved. So they do have quality control standards that they have to meet. Let's get into the project description field, though. That's probably the most problematic one. And here you have up to 550 characters to put in your description of your project experience. I'd use all, or as close as possible, to the 550 characters because you really want to impress to the PMI reviewer that you have great experience and you've met all their requirements. You don't want to put in anything in there that is going to raise red flags. And there's lots of little things. The PMI reviewer is just following from a script and they're looking for things. They've been told to watch out for anything that looks like it's operations and not projects. They've been told to look out for a number of things. So you have to be really careful in this part here. Don't just copy and paste stuff in. They do have plagiarism detectors. They also have BS detectors, and there are people looking at your application. So it has to be specific to your application. FastPM Wizard handles all that stuff, and it also makes sure that assuming that you are not putting anything dishonest, the FastPM Wizard's been designed to meet all PMP's requirements. I'm a PMP myself, so I have to follow PMI's Code of Ethics and Professional Practice. You will have to too. So we want to make sure that everything that you put in is 100% accurate and not trying to mislead them at all, because they may find out and they may bar you from applying for your PMP for life. Okay, so then lastly, you're going to click on Review and Submit. It'll make sure that you've completed all these sections. In my case, I've skipped over a couple of the sections here. You'll just have to keep entering your project experience until you meet the required numbers of months and hours. FPMcertify.com/tools has got all the information you need to calculate that. Or the easiest thing is to sign up for FastPM Wizard, and that handles all this stuff. It'll tell you exactly what to put in. It'll ask you questions on your project experience. You know, did you work on the project charter? How many? What, you know, when did the project start? When did the project finish? It'll make some estimates on what hours to put in, wording, all that sort of stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. Once your application is complete, you'll submit it, and it'll take 5 business days for PMI to review your application. They'll tell you then whether you can go on to the next step or whether you're rejected right out off the bat, or you have to make some changes. Assuming that they say that you are approved, then you make your payment, and that's when applications are randomly selected for audit. And if you're audited, if you use FastPM Wizard, it's not a big deal, assuming that you didn't totally fabricate everything in there. You just get your send in the documents that they're looking for, and I can help you out with that as well. It's a very straightforward process if you've used FastPM Wizard. If you haven't, and you've got some wording that they have some concerns on, once you send in all your audit materials, they will be looking at your application in more detail, and that's when a lot of times they come back to you and say, oh, well, we've looked more closely at your application and determined it doesn't meet our requirements because it was operational in nature, or it looks like you weren't directing or leading the project activities that were listed, or you didn't cover all the domains that we thought you were supposed to get experience in. So there can be all kinds of problems there. I encourage you to go to FPMcertify.com/tools. Check out my free PMP application FAQ. That's the frequently asked questions I get and answers for your PMP application, or even better yet, sign up for FastPM Wizard at FPMcertify.com, and I look forward to hearing that you got your PMP.